Let's talk about some things that CMX2 does that are really, really cool, but also hit you with a bit of a curveball in case you haven't considered places to get color palettes from, all right? So a couple things I want to show you first. Now, in our overview of CMX2, we talked about that it does everything CMX1 did, and then some. And today we're going to talk about what we mean and then some. But let's go ahead and extract some palettes real quick, all right? So here's what I've done. Might be the unexpected thing. See these images? These images I took quite literally 30 minutes ago in my house on my phone just to get color palettes. Brought them into Photoshop, boosted the saturation just a little because I want to get some colors. I want to play with them. And full disclosure, like I like to do in a lot of my videos, I haven't tested these. I don't know what we're going to get, but we're going to extract some palettes, apply them to this beautiful shot of Freya on Culebra, and we're going to see what happens. All right, so let's get us a palette real quick first. Let's do this purple one. All right, so we're going to come here to CMX2. We're going to choose some samples, probably not too many, it's not a whole lot of colors there, but it's a good primary opportunity to show you what CMX2 might do when you don't have a huge palette. So let's analyze it. All right, now we have 3. See, CMX2 came back and said, you don't have wide enough range to really warrant any more than 3. 3 is going to give you a reproduction of the palette just fine. Cool. All right, so let's go over here to our shot of Freya and let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and apply it. We have the default settings, which to be clear, we right click or control click analyze, are soft light and 35% opacity. I consider that my default. Generally speaking, it comes with 50% opacity. For the video, let's go ahead and put it on 50% just for you guys to see obvious results. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and apply it. Here we go. Boom. And very clearly, very obviously, we now are evoking the purple vibe on this shot. So we turn it off and on, we see we got a beautiful purple vibe. But what can we do with this? Well, let's play with it. For example, we can increase the level. We can brighten it. We've talked about that a little bit in some other videos, but we can definitely brighten it right here. We can darken it. If we feel we need to deepen it, we can do all kinds of things like that. Change the opacity back down more to like the 30% I was thinking. Peg it to 100%. But let's say we want to have the grading only occur in a certain luminosity range of the image. Let's talk about that real quick, okay? Oops, didn't need to do that. Let's talk about that real quick. So here's what opportunities that we have. We have these 5 buttons down here. These are Blend-If buttons. Blend-If being a function of a layer. So you can come here and you double click the right side of a layer, you have all these Blend-If options. But instead of sliding that around and dealing with those settings, we have 5 presets, which are super useful. All right, let's go through them. While we're here, it doesn't matter. We're on the CMX layer. As long as we have CMX palette open, we can click the left one. Now our image changed very slightly. What's happened? Well, with that Blend-If option on, you see now the gradient map layer has the Blend-If icon to the right. Rather, it has layer options, showing you that layer options have been triggered. Now we see the Blend-If settings down here mean that this palette starts in the lowest luminosity, the darkest shadows, and then as it goes up towards higher luminosities, the grading goes away. Okay, so if I turn it off, it becomes stronger. Turn it on, it blends slowly from the dark luminosity all the way to the bright luminosity, and the brightest, it's gone. This is a great way to preserve the essence of your image, but still provide that new color grading that you're adding. Okay, the next one is even less of that. So it's like only in the deeper shadows. I'm gonna turn off the opacity for this one. Okay, let's turn it off and on. Okay, that again, most of my highlights are still neutral. The sky, which is luckily a little bit brighter luminosity on this one, doesn't get affected as much, right? But I still have this purple wash over everything that's darker. You can turn it off and see. There it is. You have all of the highlights. Turn that on, only on the shadows. This one in the middle is exactly that, the mid-range. Admittedly, the mid-range color, you know, when you add a grading like this and only put it on the mid-range, if you look at the blending mode, you can see the Blend-If here, not the blending mode, the Blend-If settings. It is useful for a lot of things. But generally speaking, when I grade, I don't usually put the midtones, but we have that to be thorough. Now, the next one is, of course, highlights, which is more the deeper highlights, brighter highlights. Okay, so you can see off and on. It's very difficult to see. It's not really obvious. And then this is a sweep from the highlights, brightest point, having the strongest grading, all the way fading away to the low. So you can have a very different sort of look. Here we're adding this purple toning mostly to the highlights, leaving the shadows basically alone. Go to the exact opposite, boom, and you can see how it changes the vibe. This is very, very common for me when I color grade with just about anything, but I like to color grade with gradient maps and make sure I have this option right here of, you know, these blending modes, okay? Turn them on and off. Excuse me, I said blending modes again. I meant Blend-If. Blend-If is very useful and you can use it for a lot of things, but having it available as just a button is really, really convenient. On top of that, if we were to right click control click analyze, we have these Blend-If defaults down here. Okay. So if I were to choose this one, just leave it there. Okay. We can just reset. And now when we apply gradient, that's already the default. In case we just really like doing that. Sometimes I do that. I go on a grading kick where I pull palettes and I add them and then I just leave the Blend-If on because I like the way it's working on the shadows, especially on a shot like that has a lot of shadows. Okay. Let's get crazy now. Let's go over here to this picture of this old sleeping bag and we're going to analyze it. Okay, so it's getting colors. As you can see, it's a lot of different options there. Oh, now we pull it up. We start seeing the blues. There we go. It's pretty radical. You know, there's a lot of strong color differences here. So the palette extraction is going to be interesting. Let's come back over here and apply it because now we're going to overwrite that one. Okay, now we still have the Blend-If. So it's still only in the shadows, right? But let's see what's going on here. Let's go ahead and change our blending mode to hue, which we're only going to do actually to color, which we're only going to do manually for now because we're going to get to the advanced editor in another video. If you haven't seen that one, go check that one out. All right, so let's turn up the opacity pretty strong. Okay, we can see all sorts of banding. If for some reason we really wanted this, we have banding. So we use our smoothness and we smooth it out. Now we sort of have a purple, yellow, light blue thing, but it is a little bit better than just the pure blue hard line at the yellow. So it's a good sort of medium compromise to get the color that you want. Blend it in, etc. You can also choose a different Blend-If if you want. Let's go for the deepest one. There you go. Very, very subtle look, but we're kind of muting the shadows with that. Why not? Turn it all off, have it straight. Blend it out, turn down the opacity. We can just play with this until we get something that we like. Okay, let's turn that off and go back. Let's find another one. How about this one? It's more of a natural sort of tan brown thing going on. Okay, we have quite a lot of swatches that we can work with there. So we'll try that. This should be pretty straightforward. But now let's change a few things. Let's go to our default. Again, we don't have to change our default. You can change this after you work, but I'm going to go ahead and change our default. So we're going to turn off that. We're going to put it on overlay. And yeah, we're going to have an opacity of about 20. We're going to go with that. Okay, excellent. We have that brown. Let's add it. Boom. What a beautiful tonal contrast gray that's been added. It's only 20, so we can turn that up. See that? Look at that. In overlay, it looks so great. And if we want, we can again sweep it. Okay, that way the highlights don't get it quite as much. And we can brighten it if we feel we lost a lot of our luminosity. Look at that. What a beautiful sort of intent. I'm going to intensify a little bit for you guys in the video. There we go. It kind of gave a different sort of vibe. And again, if you look at the source image, which is this, if you look at the source image, it does evoke some of that. Look at that. Look at the skin tones. They're basically the same, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do something else. How about this one? We'll get to the Rubik's Cube in a minute. Let's do this one. It's going to have a lot of varying colors once again. So we come back to our image, apply. We can smooth that out a bit. Okay, we can watch our opacity, lighten it a bit. Something like that. See that? That's kind of giving that vibe. It's very different, but it is. Naturally, if we were to change that from overlay to color or hue, we usually get a more direct representation of the palette in question, which is sometimes if you just really, really want to do that. But obviously, it's going to be pretty strong when you do that. But nonetheless, we're still evoking that. Now, speaking of wild, let's see what happens when we go to our Rubik's Cube. Here we go. Okay. It's trying to make some good decisions for you. Looks like we lost the yellow. There we go. Look at that. 9 swatches. Let's go ahead and what settings do we have? An overlay, right? Let's go ahead and put it on. Again, this is just a default. You don't have to leave it on the default. You can change it whenever you want. Let's put it on color and let's put it on like a 51%. Why not? Here we go. Apply. Boom. Look at all that. Obviously, we have some significant banding going on because of the nature of the palette. Let's smooth it out all the way and see what we get. We sort of get this weird blend. I want a little bit more dynamic. There we go. Something like that. A little bit stronger, a little smoother from that to that. And, you know, you may not think to yourself, well, this is not a rainbow Rubik's Cube. No, it's not. But it's definitely something cool. It's definitely something you can play with. And then you can try the Blend-If again. So if I did the sweep, now I get more of the natural colors in the highlights. There's even more natural colors in the highlights. So I'm just giving a different sort of grade into the shadows to change it up. In this case, very muted, right? The opposite is also true. I can apply it just to the highlights. and sweep it down to the, and you never know what kind of vibe you can get. The whole point is to play. If your idea is take a photo of a Rubik's Cube and get a rainbow result, you may or may not get that. This is about exploration. It's about seeing what's what. But now, what if we do have some colors that we like, but we want to, you know, like, this is pretty, and I can smooth them, but some just need to go. Here's what we do. We can do this actively. So even though I removed that, I'm going to go ahead and apply it again. There we go. So we have it applied, and we're going to have the opacity kind of strong. There we go. Now, let's say we sort of like this. Man, that yellow is just killing us, that greenish yellow in the middle. What we do is we click that color in the palette, and now it's gone. It's temporarily removed. We can toggle it back on if we want. If we're having some serious troubles with the green next to it, we can get rid of that. Okay, and we can still smooth it as if those colors aren't there. Turn them back on, the smoothing re-engages. See, so we can tweak exactly what we want. Exactly what we want, exactly what we want. See that? So just tap those colors, and you get a little X temporarily over them to let you know that they're not there anymore, okay? So you can essentially keep playing. Because sometimes you get exactly what's right and you like it, but that greenish yellow is just killing you. So you leave that alone. And that's just the beginning of what we can modify, okay? So let's do something real quick. Let's go back to the purple, which when we analyze it, CMX2 is going to come back and say, all right, well, you know, I can spread it out to 7 if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and make it like a 3, like a 3. And I think to myself, that's not a very broad range of color, right? So what I can do is I can click on add black and add white. And that adds black and white to each end of the gradient. Depending on the blending mode you use, that can radically change the result, okay? It can really make it look deeper and stronger, or it can intensify the tonal contrast, etc. So let's go ahead and apply that one with the black and white. There we go. And if we look at our palette on the adjustment layer properties, we see it's black to white, okay? And we can turn off the blacks at any moment. Turn it back on. We can turn off the whites at any moment. Very small changes. And of course, the stronger the opacity, the more obvious it'll be. So we turn off blacks, turn on blacks, turn on whites, turn off whites, etc. And that's on color mode. So if we change it to like a soft light, it really becomes radical because that black can make a big, big difference. See that? Sometimes we want that to make sure we have a full range of luminosity in our grade. And sometimes we don't want that, so we don't have to worry about that, okay? It's just a matter of playing with it back and forth. We used to call that black and white protection in the original CMX1. And that just made sure that if you did get a grade that you extracted that didn't have a whole lot of luminosity variance, this will help you get that luminosity variance. And of course, you can also smooth it out. That'll help kind of create more of a blend between the black and the white. What we've ended up with is a perfect, beautiful sort of violet grade there. Real simple, but it's an option for you depending on where you get your extraction from, if that makes sense, right? All right, so let's go to our red, because this is going to be pretty strong, I'm sure. So analyze that one. There we go. Now we have red. You know, it found that this black in the end is actually more of a blue. It's just the nature of the photo and the way I enhanced it. Okay, so we're going to smooth that out a little bit. We're going to choose some, let's choose some Blend-If, apply. There we go. See that? That's pretty cool. I want to deeper the Blend-If. Yeah. From that to that, a little bit more opacity. Cool. And at any moment, I can double click opacity to get to 100%, double click level, and we'll center it back, double click samples, the word itself, put it back to default of 5, double click smoothness, it'll take it back down to 0. We can always go back to our defaults whenever we want. Let's smooth that one up though. I like that a little bit better. Try in the mids. Mids is a little weird. Highlights, I don't usually grade on highlights, but sometimes it looks cool. There's the deepest shadows. I think that looks pretty darn cool, especially with a really strong opacity like that. I think that looks really cool. We'll brighten it up from that to that. Look at that grade that we have from this beautiful random photo of red. And that's what we have to remember. We can pull colors from just about anywhere. Taking your own photos on your phone, maybe give them a little bit of a boost in Photoshop, maybe not, is a good way to extract palettes. And you can always keep extracting palettes and keep exploring. When you take random things on your phone, who knows what can be exciting for you? Who knows to go, you know what? I didn't consider that bottle of whatever soda has a cool palette. I'm going to take a picture of it. I can use it later, do a quick extraction. All kinds of things you can do. But don't forget, these Blend-If functions are great ways to make your palettes a little bit more blended when you apply them. Try that out. Try the different Blend-If modes. Also, I encourage you, let's go back to the purple. Okay, I encourage you, if you apply that and then you choose a Blend-If and you like it, if you're like, oh, it's so close, you know, double click the Blend-If and slide this thing. Okay, make sure you always do that. The panel itself has a ton of options right there in the UI, but go ahead and adjust small things if you need to and want to, just to get it exactly like you want. But these are usually do it for me. The way I like to grade, The full sweep from shadow up and disappearing up to highlight, I like, and then the deeper one where it kind of goes to the mid-range. These two I use quite frequently when I grade with gradient maps, or really kind of a lot of things. It's just another option to get you a more satisfying and creative exploration of color work.